All right, this recording will be for a lecture for Chapter 9, which is all about I/O. This is a pretty easy lecture, pretty easy quiz this week. The exam's due in 2 days. Don't miss that deadline. Take the exam. It's exam 2. It's so fun. Okay. Sound recording levels look good. Let's share this screen in Discord in case anybody shows up. There it is. Okay. So supporting I/O. I/O means in and out, input, output. Technician, as well, really any role, you're going to be messing with this stuff forever. So this is going to be kind of a broad list, but the principles are pretty simple. Like we're going to talk biometric devices like fingerprint scanners, retina scanners, barcode readers for digital point of sale devices, cameras. Obviously, everybody these days needs a webcam because they got this plague on. And graphic tablets, touchscreens, yeah, you name it. You also want to be ready to install and configure adapter cards. Now I see Josh Jean. How you doing, Josh? Josh is
pretty good.
Making a mockery of my class with a like 99 or 100% average. It's everybody hate him together. You're not the only one, but you're the only one who showed up. So congratulations. Okay. We also want to think about supporting monitors, troubleshooting common PC problems with I/O devices. So where do we begin with this? Well, let's understand that an I/O device can be internal or external. Josh, my only victim so far. What's an example of an internal I/O device?
I'm honestly not sure.
Okay. It could be a graphics card. Is technically an I/O device. It adds input, output. It adds functionality to a computer. And so would be like a Wi-Fi card or an Ethernet card. Anything like that. An external one, that's your printers, your keyboards, your mice. It's everything. Generally, when we don't know what to call something, you say, oh, it's an I/O device. It's an external device. All of it's controlled by software. RTF means read the fun manual. Some devices need a whole application to go with them. They make these little printers, Dymo label printers. They're like the size of a football. And they sit on your desk. And when you print a name and address on it, it spits out this little tiny sticker, and you can slap that on an envelope, and basically it's addressed. So that requires that you physically connect the printer and also install the driver and then also install the software. Most of the time when you want to do this stuff, you want to do it on an admin account. And if you have any weird problems or weird behaviors, it's probably because of drivers or firmware. And typically you want to install one device at a time and make sure it works. Because if you install 5 and then there's a super weird problem or a crash or blue screen or whatever, you have no idea who to blame first. And you need to know who did it. One of the places you'll go to make sure something is showing up correctly is Device Manager. Like right here, we see, let's see, we've got, it looks like we are running this on a Mac because it has an Apple. Well, it might not be a Mac. No, this is a PC with a recycled Apple hard drive, a solid state drive, a USB drive connected, a GeForce RTX 2060, and a Apple monitor that it doesn't have the installed driver for. So that's probably not functional. Okay. So, ports. We did this early in the semester. It's going to be much easier right now. Josh, are you on the visual stream?
Yes.
What port is that?
It would be Is that VGA?
It is VGA.
That's what I thought.
What do you think this one is?
Oh, crud. I forgot what that one
It
was.
is CRUD. It is, in fact, CRUD, also known as DVI.
DVI. Yeah.
This is sort of the in-between between VGA and modern stuff. Modern stuff like this one. You notice it's not symmetrical.
Yeah.
What would that one be?
Isn't that a display?
Correct. That is a display port. DP for display port. And the last one must be
HDMI.
Yep, everybody's TVs, Nintendo Switches, everything runs on HDMI pretty much. And then they have mini versions for reasons that are never really that clear to me, but I guess there's devices out there that use these. I don't know why my Windows keeps beeping every time I do that. That's annoying though. Okay. On the side of a laptop, you can expect some I/O ports. SD cards stands for secure digital. We went through all this before, but we're kind of refreshing on it now. It should be a lot easier for you guys to identify ports now that you've had to connect and disconnect computers 5, 6, 7, 8 times if you never had before. Digital audio is not a thing that we use very often anymore, but it was a good idea. We ended up just deciding that we really couldn't tell much difference between super high fidelity digital audio connections and regular old headphone cables and headphone jacks, aux cables to the younger generation. But that is optical audio technically. Of course, we remember with such fondness the fact that Thunderbolt 2 and Mini DisplayPort are essentially the same thing, physically the same, functionally the same, and Apple just calls them Thunderbolt 2, but if you see it on a Dell, it would be called Mini DisplayPort. Really fun that companies do that to us. Here we have USB throughout the ages. It's lovely. Kind of excited about USB-C. Honestly, I hate switching ports and stuff like that. It's obnoxious. We all have a zillion devices that use regular old USB, but you can't plug it in wrong, and it is faster. The transfer speeds of this are fantastic. So hopefully within a few years, we'll all be on this and no more of this. Just a quick chart about the evolution of various I/O ports. This one's Wi-Fi right here, and SATA. And down here we have some infrared, near field. This is another one of those charts from the book that I really you guys don't need to memorize this. This is stuff you Google when you're asked, like, how fast is USB 2.0? Oh, well, it's 480. Got it. Cool. Google that, because you'll never remember it. I mostly just want you to see how things change, how they're modified, how they kind of grow and constantly iterate on the old stuff. When you're installing, these are the book's recommendations, and I generally agree with them. You want mouse and keyboard are usually automatically detected. Like the BIOS has some generic mice and keyboard drivers in it that will probably work. If you have fancy gaming mouse or fancy graphics mouse or something else like that, it might not fully work, but it will probably do the basic point and click with no drivers installed. Even if you're just dinking around the BIOS, you don't even have Windows or Linux loaded yet. But step one, read the directions. Nobody does that, but the book would like to recommend that you do it. Make sure the drivers are written for the proper OS. We don't really think about that anymore either, because generic drivers on Windows 10, Mac OS, Linux are getting so good that things almost always work. Make sure the motherboard port you're using is enabled. Modern motherboards, this is not so necessary. These instructions are slightly out of date. Modern motherboards typically have all the ports on or turn them on when they detect something's connected to them. You don't really have to think about that as much anymore. If I had a motherboard that was refusing to talk to a given port, I would go in and reset it to factory defaults. Okay, install the drivers and plug in the device. That's usually the step we start with. And then install the application software to use the device when we discover that it doesn't work without it. So really number 4 is like all the steps, and then sometimes we go 5, 3, 1, 2. But drivers are essential. Nothing's going to work without them. They're usually loaded by the operating system, and some devices, like I said, will partially work, some will not work at all. Another example of a good device, these were kind of the rage for a while now. I feel like they're not that popular anymore, is really fancy TV remotes. And they used to use infrared. Pretty much everything uses Bluetooth or something like it nowadays. These were easily blocked by line of sight. If you had a particularly fat cat, as I do, and that cat got between the sensor and your remote, you were not going to use your device really at all. So that was an issue. Okay. Fingerprint readers, we have this on a lot of computers at work. People who suck at remembering passwords, we just put a cheap $20 fingerprint reader on their computer and they touch to authorize login. Some of them are this big. The ones we have are like the size of a little USB plug. They're very small. Yeah, I have one embedded in my keyboard. It's pretty handy. When you want to sit down and log in Windows, you just touch it. It quickly logs you in to your account because it can tell the difference between different fingers. Retinal scanning tech is pretty cool. It's not that common. It's generally a higher security thing than you'll find most of the places. But your retina doesn't really change over your lifetime. It's affected by a few diseases, so that can mess up your retinal stuff, but it's a pretty good identifier. But like I said, the devices are scary. Scary expensive. This is scary. This is obviously a little Snapchat filter, but face scanning devices are pretty common. We all got used to our phones using facial recognition to sign in, and then we all had to start wearing masks because 2020 is like, psych, you don't get to enjoy anything. So now our phones can't recognize us, and we have to end up typing our stupid codes. But these are pretty good. It's tough to beat them. You gotta look pretty similar to the person to work it, and it works off the internal camera. So pretty cheap to implement. Phones really just had to add the software, and the functionality is kind of already there. And if you change a lot, it messes with you. Like mine, I trained it with my glasses on. If I take them off, it takes like an extra second to recognize me. It's like, who the hell are you? All right. Obviously, in 2020, everybody has a webcam. You use your phone as a webcam, or you got one on your laptop, or you got one clamped onto your computer. And this is the only way we communicate with each other because they got this plague on. It's got a built-in microphone. Some of them have speakers. This one does not. This looks like a Brio. Logitech's like high-end 4K. It's a very nice webcam. Usually needs a USB port. Barcodes you're very used to at the supermarket. When you check out, when you buy stuff, you scan the barcode. Very quickly figures out the item's relevant entry in a database, and that tells the computer, oh, it's a such and such, it costs $5. Bam, here you go. It's on your receipt. But you can use this in the workplace too. We use it at SIU for our property tags. Every computer has a little property tag like this. And then every year when inventory comes through, they just walk around with one of these little scanners, point it at the barcode, and go, boop, we know where this computer is for the year. We're good. So, graphics tablet. These are getting to be all the rage, although a tablet connected to a PC is not as hot an item these days as like a Surface Pro with a drawing pencil or an iPad Pro. A lot of digital artists are going to these because they can sort of sketch on it. But this is sort of I/O device you might have one day, or you might be asked to support or fix or troubleshoot. KVM switches we use to connect two computers to one monitor, keyboard, and mouse. This is handy if you have a little stack of servers or not enough room for two IOs for two monitor, keyboard, and mice, but you got multiple computers. Touch screens. You can see a little Raspberry Pi here connected to this super cheap touch screen. And yeah, these are amazingly cheap. Under $100 for an actual touch screen that works. And you can set this up as a little control panel for something. You can do a million different things with this. If you want a million ideas for what to do with Raspberry Pis and touchscreen, talk to Rob Craig. He's got, I mean, a lot of his ideas are very bad, but some are bound to be good. Let's see. Yeah, it's pretty rare for us to see laptops with touch screens in like education IT, like John A and SIU usually will not spring for that feature. So very few people have it. Although I keep seeing customers come in, and when I set a new Dell from SIU on their desk and say, here's your new computer, they try to touch the screen. And they say, oh, we don't have a touch screen. They're like, oh, man. So people are getting this stuff at home, and they're sort of expecting it. And then eventually we're probably going to have it. So adapter cards. Of course, you want to make sure it fits where you're going to put it. You want to have the drivers ready. Of course, they always like to tell you to back up data. Most people don't back up data before they install a card like this. It's very unlikely to erase your data or cause such a serious problem. But it's these days, all your data should be backed up in the cloud all the time. So this step should be kind of unnecessary, really. Monitor features. There's three main panels kind of vying for superiority, although most are IPS panels that I see on Amazon lately. And it's all about high refresh rate, which is good for gaming, because if your frames per second goes beyond this, it doesn't matter. You don't see it. Low price, we all like that. Narrow viewing angle, you don't care as a gamer because you're looking at the screen. You don't care if 12 people around you can see it. Limited color depth, you're, again, in video games, you kind of care about that, how good it looks, but not that much. It's more of an artist thing. So IPS is good because it's lots of viewing angles, has great color depth. Its refresh rate's not as good as TN, but it's still pretty good, and they're kind of pricey. Then, of course, VA is what your artists are going to want, your Photoshop, your video editors, people like that. They want that color depth because they have to match the color they see on their screen with what prints out or goes to film or goes to commercial or goes to YouTube. They want to know that orange is going to be that shade of orange when the customer views it. They care about that. Oh yeah, here we have examples. Photoshop. As mentioned earlier, a type of I/O card is a graphics card. Also, another one is capture card. Here we have our gaming PC. Technically, this arrow should be coming from here. Usually, the capture card splits off and sends a signal back to the gaming monitor. So you're sitting here acting like this is one PC, when actually the video is going over to the capture card, which might be in here, or might be in here, and then out to the gaming monitor. And then a streaming PC, this guy's job, his only job, is to take that incoming video and send it to Twitch, to YouTube, to an external monitor to make sure things are going okay. That's its job. Okay. Josh, my lone spectator this week, any questions about any of that?
No, I think I'm all right.
Okay. The quiz should be unlocked or unlocking momentarily. Lab this week is just makeup lab, so a lot of you do not have to come because you are caught up on labs. One of the labs people have been missing is the psycholinguistics build, $6,000. Build me 4 PCs. Tell me why you picked why you pick. You can go pre-built or custom builds. Please save me a PC part picker or a Newegg card or Amazon cart, something like that, so we can look at it and be prepared to explain why you picked what you picked. The other lab some folks missed was where we made bootable media turn a USB drive into an OS installer. And you can do Linux, you can do Windows, you can do Rufus, or you can try Lily. This has been buggy lately. I don't trust it quite as much as I used to. Rufus has been fantastic. Just download the current portable version of Rufus and you're off to the races. Or Microsoft's media creation tool basically does everything for you. You just give it the flash drive, tell it to do it, and come back in 20 minutes. It'll be done. So that's not too bad. And then you test it. This poses no danger to your computer, so you can try this on your home computer. and you can come to class and try it and get credit for it. And then, of course, the one that's difficult to do outside of class, some of you might have the means to do it, but I want you to make sure you have the experience of removing a processor cooler, a CPU cooler, cleaning the old thermal goo off of it, applying new thermal goo, not like these examples. These are all bad examples. And then also, while you're in the middle of that, just pull out the processor, put it back in, make sure you understand how that goes. You need this experience for your total kind of hardware mastery to say that you understand computer hardware, and to the extent that this class teaches it, you really need that processor removal lab. It's crucial. So if you don't have it, come to class tomorrow or Wednesday. I don't care if you swap. I don't care if you're normally Wednesday and you come on Tuesday. That's fine. I'll be there at 5 p.m. You don't have to wait till 6, although if you want to, let me know. And let's get these labs done. Johnny Logan will not have in-person classes after Thanksgiving, so the clock is ticking on getting this stuff done. Okay. Thanks to Josh for hanging out with me, and I'm going to upload this and see you guys in lab or next week. Thanks, Josh.
See ya.